Things are different on the ground is a Kenyan proverb. Elsewhere, the government isn't fazed by the extent of the country's public debt, which is approaching 6 trillion shillings, even as some economic analysts raise the red flag on the debt level, which has surged considerably in the recent years. In the interim, for instance, the government is seeking to raise 60 billion shillings through an infrastructure bond. Lillian Carey delves into the debt debate.
Data from the Central Bank of Kenya shows that the government has been spending at least 1.3 times more than its total revenue for development projects. This implies that for every 100 shillings the country collects in tax revenue, it spends about 130 shillings to fund its expansive budget in the hopes of fueling economic growth. To facilitate this spending, debt has been the drug that it cannot do without.
To make sure that we have discipline in our expenditure, we are working towards a fixed target. Whether 6 billion, whether 6 trillion, whether 8 trillion, whether 9 trillion. In the next 10 years, we are going to fix our debt limit at a given time because we need more money to finance development projects.
A bill proposing an amendment to set the capping at 6 trillion shillings is now in the legislative agenda of Parliament.
That arbitrary cap of 6 trillion shillings, it is superfluous because we already passed 6 trillion shillings in February this year. So the justification for why new debt is required should be done when that debt report is presented to Parliament, so that the budget that then follows has taken into account all these issues about how much debt is required, what will be used, and how that debt will be serviced over the medium or longer term.
Currently, Kenyans have a debt burden of more than half of the country's economic output on their shoulders. For the government, however, it is business as usual as it maintains that the debt is sustainable.
The target we are setting does not mean that we are going to borrow that amount. It's only the Parliament that's going to fix the amount that we'll be borrowing through a presentation of the National Treasury. GDP is a moving target. That means if the GDP changes next year, that proportion will also change.
Treasury's acting cabinet secretary spoke at the official launch of the Kenya Revenue Authority's Taxpayers Month.
The attorney says that the new debt limit will still allow the country to access concessional funding from bilateral and multilateral agencies to allow the country to continue financing its development projects. Lillian Carey, NTV, in Nairobi.